Shalom. So, um, hello. Uh, I don't like lecturing, but I have a feeling that this is kind of necessary. Um, what's There's a lot of Christians who are very interested in Kabbalah and the esotericism in Judaism, and frankly, part of it is that um, Richard Rowland, now he's Seraphim Rowland, I think, and he's been ordained. I think you can even call him father. And don't want to be disrespectful. And Jonathan Pajot have been talking about this, and I think their understanding is poor, and there's lots of people who've been saying a lot of things, and I would prefer to answer questions. If people have questions, please put them in the comments, and I will try to answer them to the best of my abilities. But to explain what anyone who's asking about the Kabbalah should definitely know is that Judaism had an esoteric tradition clearly before the time of Jesus, and during the time of Jesus. So, as a Christian, you can't actually deny the esoteric tradition within Judaism. It's just completely ahistorical. It's completely denied by the Gospels, by the letters of Paul, by Acts. It's the esoteric tradition, Revelation, the esoteric tradition within Second Temple Judaism is undeniable. Especially now with the Dead Sea Scrolls and the sectarian documents of the Dead Sea Scrolls, especially for anyone who's a Catholic or Eastern Orthodox and believes in the apocryphal books, right? There has been an esoteric tradition within Judaism for thousands of years. What does that mean, an esoteric tradition? The analogy I like to make is to math, right? And I say that the 10 Commandments are like your times tables, and the Bible is like arithmetic, and Talmud is like algebra, and Kabbalah is like calculus. Everybody who knows anything about math knows that you can't divide by zero. And anyone who knows calculus knows that calculus is all about taking the limit of a function as you approach dividing by zero, right? And we say that quite distinctly, as you approach dividing by zero, because even in calculus, you can't divide by zero. And yes, even if you know about Euclidean spheres, what was it? Was it the Riemann sphere? Right? Even if you know about Riemann spheres, you still can't divide by zero. Let me just make sure one more thing. So, let me make sure one more thing. Okay. So, um, I hope this is not going to be a lot of math in this. No. Can you dispel some of the popular myths and misconceptions before diving in? Well, I mean, that's kind of the whole point, is to explain, right, that what you have to, there's a lot of people who think that the Ten Commandments say, thou shalt not kill or murder, right? And suddenly you study the Kabbalah and it tells you you can murder. That is obviously false, right? And the reason it is false is because it is only meant to be a a further development, right? When someone tells you you can divide by zero, when someone tells you your arithmetic is no longer arithmetic, when somebody tells you 2 plus 2 no longer equals 4, right? I'll try doing that stuff too. When somebody tells you 2 plus 2 no longer equals 4, right? Then it's not that they know more advanced math than you do. It's that they don't know math, right? And so generally the consensus is that Noahides should not be dabbling in Kabbalah, should not be studying Kabbalah. There are various opinions about certain things within the Kabbalah, but regardless, the way it works is just like in math, right? When someone with a PhD in math comes to you and says 2 plus 2 does not equal 4, you tell him that says more about your PhD than it does about whether 2 plus 2 equals 4. In a similar way, when someone comes and tells you that something Kabbalistic is against the Torah, right? That tells you more about the person who's speaking than about the Kabbalah, right? But there has always been this idea that there are advanced topics within Judaism, within the study of the Torah, which are taught only after someone proves their knowledge of the Torah. And knowledge of the Torah is not merely a propositional knowledge of, like, somebody who knows, even if they know the entirety of the Bible by heart, that's not considered knowledge of the Torah in Judaism. That's referred to, and I'm quoting from the Talmud, a jackass carrying books. Chamor noses sfarim. Some people say donkey carrying books, but really it's jackass carrying books, right? Your knowledge of the Torah is proved by the fact that you live the Torah, you know the Torah, you speak the Torah, you think the Torah, right? And a hierarchy develops, and has always developed, of the scribes and Pharisees, as Jesus put it. There are no Kabbalists on YouTube, honestly. There are very few genuine Kabbalists on YouTube, and they usually will not talk about YouTube. Will not talk about actual Kabbalah on YouTube. Chacham Yaakov Moshe Hillel, who who is considered the foremost English-speaking Kabbalists in the world. He had a here, let me see if I can find his channel. He had a channel briefly, which had a very small number of subscribers, and he deleted it. There are videos of Chacham Hillel on YouTube. They do not get very much. They don't get very much attention because he is he's speaking about very, very simple things generally. And this man is basically, I mean, he has been teaching Kabbalah in Jerusalem for something like 50 years now. How old is Chacham Hillel? He was born in 1945, so he's 80, and yeah, he's been, as far as I know, he is. Oh, I did not know he has 19 children. May God make him only more fruitful in all ways. But Rabbi Hillel, like he's the only English-speaking Kabbalist I am aware of on the internet, on YouTube, and he he says very, very straightforward stuff. Basically, you can look him up. So back to the history of the esoteric. So within Judaism, there's always been, and it is indisputable. I mean, if you have a problem with this idea, especially as a Christian, all you need to do is read the Gospels, read Acts, read what Paul writes about visiting second heaven, etc. Right? It is mentioned explicitly in the Christian Bible, and no, it really isn't. It is, well, yes, maybe I'm well. Okay. By the way, RJ, if you want to jump on, we could have this discussion together. So the esoteric, the fact that there was an esoteric tradition where the people who were, and this is one of the things within Judaism, which is that people who know more Torah can tell the difference between people who know less Torah and more Torah, and a hierarchy developed, and that was how the Sanhedrin was seated, right? There was always a hierarchy, and frankly, I have never studied the actual Kabbalah myself, but I know the orientation of Judaism towards the Kabbalah. The fact is that there are and there are many texts. You can look at all of these texts. It's not like the Zohar hasn't been printed all over the place, isn't available in translation. It is. Not that I recommend it, but like it's not like these texts are actually hidden so much. The fact is quite likely that there are texts that So what was definitely the case during the time of Jesus and before was that people who knew about who were advanced students of the Torah, were respected rabbis, would share certain knowledge of advanced topics which they felt was not appropriate to be taught in public. And you can see this. You can see this in the way Jesus speaks in the Gospels, right? He often says, "Let him who has ears to hear," right? And this he obviously partook in this tradition of the advanced topics which are not meant for the general public. Hello, Andrew.
That's a good one.
Good. Did you have questions for clarification?
Oh, continue the rant. Go for it.
Okay. I know Andrew's very, very into this stuff. And I mean, if you read, for example, Father Stephen's book on the Apocrypha, he mentions that there were things within Christianity which were considered advanced topics, not to be taught to the general public, not to be read in church. And similarly, there are certain things which, topics which are considered to be too advanced to be taught in public. Very famously, the Mishnah and Chagiga, which is probably one of the oldest sources one of the sources in written sources within Judaism, which explicitly talks about this. But frankly, I mean, the Christian texts talk about this before the Jewish texts we have. But this is Mishnah 2:1 in Chagiga, chapter 2, Mishnah 1. One may not expound the laws of forbidden sexual relations before 3 people, nor the account of creation before 2, nor the divine chariot before 1, unless he is wise and understanding from his own knowledge. Anyone who looks into 4 things is worthy of not having come into the world. What is above, what is below, what is before, and what is after. And anyone who has no consideration for the honor of his maker would be better off if he had not come into the world. So this is a text that is at least from the year 200 and quite likely far older. This saying, it probably was around during the time of Jesus. And from what we know about the early Christians, about the Dead Sea community that had the Dead Sea Scrolls, etc., we know that this was a real thing within Judaism, which you had advanced topics which were not taught publicly. Now, obviously, there's a problem when these things aren't taught publicly, which is, well, how do you know what was the content of these things which were not taught publicly? I will give another Talmudic saying, which is very famous. 4 people walked into the garden, Pardes. It's from the same word, paradise. 1 died, 1 became a heretic, 1 lost his mind, and Rabbi Akiva walked in with peace and walked out with peace. with shalom. And this is generally the understanding of Judaism, of walking into the garden of the esoteric. He who enters with peace will leave with peace, and he who enters not with peace is going to probably end up dead, crazy, or a heretic, or all three. Now, what happened after the destruction of the temple is certainly a lot of Christians believed that that the revelation of Jesus was the revelation, right? And that we were living in some sort of millennium, etc., of Christian rule. And so a lot of them came to the belief that anything esoteric that is other than the gospel, right, is anti-Christian, is unchristian, etc. Now, that doesn't work too well with a lot of the fact that you had Christians like reading the Book of Enoch, right, and talking about the Watchers, etc., right? And so Protestants especially have a view towards a lot of these things, which is they believe that they are just pure superstition and magic, etc., etc., etc. Now, as far as what happened, the fact is that certain texts came into publication and into the public. Was Maimonides right? The vast majority of Jews do not hold that Maimonides was right about mysticism. Maimonides believed it appears was not inducted into the esoteric, although there are people like Zevi Slavin from Seekers of Unity who actually believes and makes an argument that Maimonides actually was inducted into the Kabbalah, and as is the norm among Kabbalists, he denied knowledge of the Kabbalah. That's, I mean, it's a, depends how Straussian you want to be. I personally think the Straussians are not incredibly far off. And you can go look up what a Straussian is if you need to. Or you can ask me and I will explain. But so you have texts which emerge after the advent of Christianity. First Sefer Yetzirah, then Zohar, then other things, which Zohar Chadash, and then finally during after the advent of the printing press, you have the teachings of Rabbi Isaac Luria, the Arizal, which the vast majority of Orthodox Jews believe that he was visited by Elijah the prophet, and his teachings in a very real sense, the majority position is that his teachings have an authority equivalent to having been endorsed by Elijah the prophet. Some people are very uncomfortable with that. Some people don't like that. I know, especially within the modern Orthodox, there's a lot of people who don't like those ideas. And among the Yeshivish, the Lithuanian Yeshivish, the Litvaks, there's a lot of people who, frankly, don't want to talk about it. I'm getting there, RJ. So there has been within Judaism revelations after the advent of Christianity of what we believe to be the genuine esoteric teachings of that existed during the time of Jesus. The fact is that if you look at the work of Moshe Idel, who is the most prominent disciple of Gershom Shalom, who was the father of the academic study of Jewish mysticism, and who said a lot of things which still get repeated by a lot of people, including especially a lot of Christians and Wikipedia, which later, people say he retracted. Whether or not he retracted as he got older, that's beside the point. The fact is, scholarship completely denies a lot of the things that people quote Gershom Shalom as saying that people imagine is true. And I'm willing to have all of these discussions for anyone who wants to have them. Make a comment. We can go into this, right? But all of Judaism, with very rare exceptions, very, very rare exceptions, accepts that 500 years ago, Rabbi Joseph Caro, who lived in the town of Tzfat, Safed, with Rabbi Isaac Luria, they knew each other. He wrote the Code of Jewish Law. He is considered authoritative, and basically all of Judaism has been defined by Rabbi Caro and the Code of Jewish Law. And Rabbi Caro very clearly and distinctly said that he, was being visited by an angel, which a lot of people don't want to talk about, who helped him in his writings, and that he, and this is very uncomfortable for the rationalists, and he believed that the authority of Rabbi Isaac Luria was that of the early prophets. The early prophets. So, that is Kabbalah as the true Kabbalah as Jews understand it. And to this day, we have people like Rabbi Hillel and many others. And frankly, when someone is at the level has progressed through the various stages of Jewish learning, they are expected to then start studying the Kabbalistic works, including the works of Rabbi Isaac Luria, right? So they start with the Tanakh, the Bible, and then they study Talmud. And once someone is familiar and well studied in the Talmud, it is expected that then he would start studying Kabbalistic texts like the Zohar, etc. This is mainstream Orthodox Judaism, and frankly, it's mainstream even unorthodox Judaism. There are only small numbers of Jews in the world. There are about 15 million Jews in the world. The number of Jews who belong to congregations which deny the authenticity of the Zohar, the authority of Rabbi Luria, which don't sing the Kabbalistic hymns as part of our liturgy, which were composed at that time 500 years ago in the town of Safed, is infinitesimally small. Maybe tens of thousands of people. Right. I usually talk about Kabbalah as being like calculus. That's something that I say. And frankly, yes, if you go to a high school, a religious high school and you're an advanced student, you are expected to start studying things which have Kabbalistic explanations, which is why, for example, there are things that you will find me discussing on the channel which have been openly revealed, first by the Rabbi Isaac Luria, and then through the students of the Baal Shem Tov and Hasidism. And if you listen to my discussions of the Talmud Sanhedrin with Donnie, we go through the commentary of the Ben Ish Chai. The name of his name was Yosef Chaim. He lived in Baghdad about 100 years ago, and he wrote a Kabbalistic explanation of the Agadic texts of the Talmud. And if you need me to tell you what Agadic text of the Talmud is, we can. Called Ben Yehoyada, and we go through that in my Sanhedrin streams with Donnie, right? So this stuff is not as hidden as some people may think. Now, when it comes down to it, I would never claim to be a Kabbalist. I would never claim to understand these things fully. But I don't understand the Talmud fully either. It's not just a problem of understanding not being able to understand too much. It's the problem is that these are topics which people who are not firmly grounded in the Bible and the Talmud can misunderstand and misinterpret. That's the reason why there is an esoteric tradition. Again, refer to the Straussians, right? There's this idea that there are ideas which are advanced, and that somebody who doesn't have a capacity to understand them is going to misunderstand them, is going to misapply them. And the fact is, throughout history, there has been problems with stuff like that, right? Okay, something that happened was there developed something called Christian Kabbalah. Shaul, if you want to jump on, we can talk about that stuff too. You keep on bringing this up, that redemption of Israel will come through the study of Zohar. My thoughts are the same as they've always been, that the study of Zohar requires a study of the Bible first. So there developed also Christian ideas of the Kabbalistic, at least some of which borrowed from Jewish tradition. There have been people who have, throughout Jewish history, perverted Jewish mysticism and Christian mysticism, and let's face it, Muslim mysticism as well. And these people make all kinds of claims as to what is and what is not the Kabbalah. And you certainly get a lot of people like the Hollywood versions, like the Kabbalah Center. There are cults. There are people who claim to understand the Kabbalah and to teach the Kabbalah. And there's a lot of them on YouTube, God have mercy, which these are not people who are deeply embedded in the Jewish community and Jewish life and the scholarly community of Judaism, right? So when I say that Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Hillel is he has a very large yeshiva, which is called Ahavat Shalom, and it is dedicated to the study of Kabbalah, and entrance to it is limited to people who already have shown a complete understanding of the Talmud. But these things exist. And the people who go around claiming to be Kabbalists, who go around claiming to represent Jewish mysticism, who have no stature within the Jewish community, as having established themselves, it's very similar to someone, and I think it's important to see how these two things interact. You have physics, and you have people who have PhDs from major universities who talk about physics and say things about physics that I have a hard time understanding and seem counterintuitive, right? And there are people who think that they understand physics better than anybody with a PhD. Oftentimes, there are people who could never get a PhD. Sometimes there are people who could get a PhD and do get a PhD, but they're quacks. And the fact is, the vast majority, certainly I am not in a position to figure out, right? So I recently had somebody contact me because he wanted me to contact somebody else because he had an idea about physics. And I said, you know what? Let me ask somebody with a PhD and see what they say. And I went to one of the there are several people who I trust in different topics. And I asked them. And it's that trust of specialization, of actually, okay, this is somebody who has a PhD in math, right? When somebody with a PhD in math tells me that the derivative of tangent x is whatever it is, I believe them because I haven't spent the time deriving it. I would have a very hard time spending the time deriving it, but I'm pretty sure that person knows what they're talking about. Kabbalah does not equal magic. That's another thing. The idea that Kabbalists understand the world in a way that other people do not is something I seriously believe in. I do believe that there is such a thing as spiritual warfare. Okay, so the derivative of tangent x is 1 plus tangent squared. Sounds good. I believe you, right? Hey, Brent. Magic infers magi priesthood of Zoroastrianism. And there are people who like to claim, there's a reason why I started this talking about what we know about the Second Temple times. because there are people who claim that that the esoteric tradition within Judaism comes from the Babylonian exile. That's not something we can physically prove, yes or no. What I can tell you is, if you believe that the Gospels and in Christianity, the claim that this came from somewhere else is way older than Christianity. Okay, Platonic forms. I have to say that I personally believe Neoplatonism was a Kabbalistic lab leak, meaning that ideas from the Kabbalists, which I believe existed back then, and to the degree where ideas from Neoplatonism seem to agree with, reflect, be consonant with ideas of Neoplatonism, I believe that that's because these ideas came from the teachings of the esoteric rabbis, the Kabbalists of the Second Temple period. I can't prove that, obviously. Okay. I think that's my rant. Was there anything I missed that I should clarify? Yeah, Neoplatonism and Platonism. Yeah, I mean, I am no what you call it? Explain the Kabbalistic tree. You mean this one? Never heard of it. So, to explain the Kabbalistic tree. Okay. So there are ideas which the Kabbalists have revealed, some of which have been are publicly discussed, and some of which are not. But one of the most famous ones is what is called the Tree of Life, or the Partsuf. And there's the famous verse. First Chronicles 29:11. Let's pull up First Chronicles 29:11. So, Tanakh, First Chronicles 29. Let's start with 10. Vayvarach David et Hashem le'nei kol hakal. And David blessed the Lord before all the congregation. Vayomer David. And David said, Baruch atah Adonai Elohei Yisrael Avinu me'olam v'ad olam. Blessed are you, the Lord, the God of Israel, our Father, from the worlds onto the worlds, forever and ever. And the famous verse, Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod ki chol v'shamayim u'va'aretz lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'hamitnaseh L'chol larosh. Yours, O Lord, is the greatness and the power and the beauty and the victory and the glory, and as all things in heaven and on earth. Yours, O Lord, is kingdom and exaltedness, l'chol larosh, as head above all, as a head above all, l'chol larosh. Now these words, right? These words, hagedulah, the greatness, hagevurah, the power, v'atiferet, and beauty, v'netzach, v'hod, right? These words are not just found here; they're found in other places, right? They're in the Bible, and these various words, which are such as gevurah and tiferet, which are found in various places in the Bible as belonging to God, as being attributes of God, right? So this is where you have to understand the idea that God is love, love is not God. I don't know if this is something most Christians understand, because a lot of them have the very heretical and silly idea that love is God. That's idolatry. God is love is simply true, because God encompasses love completely, and love, to the degree that it exists, it has its being within God, and it is, in Kabbalistic terms, a hypostasis of God. It is a characteristic, it is a sephirah, it is an outshining of God. It is an attribute of God, to the point where we can refer to love as God is love. Obviously, it doesn't encompass God. It's not the entirety of God. And anyone who misunderstands this, and God have mercy on all of our souls, because so many people do. God is love, love is not God. God is love, love is not God. This is not an equivalence relationship. Okay? It's not an equivalence relationship. And so the Kabbalists have taught that there are 10 specific attributes, and frankly, that number 10 is just one number, right? God is one, and then there's the many, right? And the problem of the one and the many is one of the most important ideas, and something that is addressed over and over again within the Hebrew Bible, if you have eyes to see it. But one of the understandings, one of the ways of better understanding God, is to understand that these 10 attributes, and if you count, you will see 10 attributes. Right? Andrew? There's 10 of them?
No. Oh, okay. I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry.
Nope. How many of them do you see? It's not that hard to count.
11.
Ah! Yes, 11. But we say it is 10, not 9, 10, not 10, 11, and that's a whole other thing. But these words are found all over in many ways. Yes, Don can actually count. In many ways throughout the Hebrew Bible. And somebody who's studied enough Bible can understand the interrelationship between these various things in various ways. This is one of my favorite ways of explaining. This is another way of explaining. And if you have some grounding in biblical Hebrew and the Bible itself, these are things which you find visibly understandable, an explanation which is grounded in the Bible itself and the language of the Bible. Now, the fact is, if you don't see these things in the Bible, then I very much invite you to ignore them. I invite you to ignore them. Because what is fundamental, what is first, what is important is knowing your arithmetic and then knowing your algebra. And I am like, it doesn't matter if you don't find any of this stuff compelling, intelligent, fine. Now, I'm not going to ask you to be my rabbi, despite the fact that the rabbi of my Discord server, there's only one person who's a Rav Mora Hora, someone who has received the capacity to be a decizer of halacha on my server, Rabbi Isaac, who is he goes by Rabbi with no knife. He's also on Twitter. So sometimes he shows up on the Discord server. And he actually believes that the Zohar is a forgery and the Kabbalah of the Arizal has no place in Judaism. And he doesn't say the Kabbalistic prayers that the rest of us do. Doesn't make him not a Jew. Makes him somebody I personally wouldn't call my rabbi. Right? And it's important to understand that. Let me see if people had comments. The English language lets you ask questions that don't always have any bearing. I don't know what you're saying. Being able to count doesn't help me understand why there are 10. Yes. So the fact is that this is a depiction of the 10, where all 11 of the various ways that it's all various ways that the Sefirot are called are being depicted. I deliberately picked this one as opposed to any of the other ones which has actual 10. So you will never find a partsuf, like a partsuf, the tree only has 10. But these are the 11 attributes which are, and their positioning, which are used as the 10. And any partsuf you see will usually either omit keter, da'at, or malchut, because those three are superimpositions of each other, right? Keter, da'at, and malchut are interrelated in such a way that any partsuf of 10 will will only display two of those three. I hope that's helpful a lot, a little bit. It seems to me God is love, love is not God, comes from divine simplicity. I would agree with that. And the fact is that I would say divine simplicity is what Maimonides, Averroes, and Aquinas all agree on. Divine simplicity was something that was generally accepted by Christianity, Islam, and Judaism for a long time. And while some people did argue with it, and there's a resurgence in people who are look, I mean, if people have questions about elementary ideas of Kabbalah, I have explained them before, and I will explain them as people have questions to the person as best as they understand it. That's great. I'm definitely willing to do that. But the point of this stream was to allow people to understand, okay, where do these ideas come from? And how do we know what is genuine and what is not genuine? And for me, what I know to be genuine Kabbalistically, because I am not well studied in the Talmud, is that the people who I know, for example, Rabbi Burton, for example, he's come on my channel, and he is a Rav Moreh Hora. He is a rabbinic decizer. Same thing with Rabbi Pinchas Levin. He has not been engaged in YouTube anymore, but he similarly he is studied in advanced Jewish topics. The rabbis who are studied in advanced Jewish topics integrate the Kabbalistic teachings, which I have learned, into their teachings. I know simply those things which my rabbis have thought were appropriate for me to learn about. Right? I mean, I come from a Hasidic tradition and a Sephardic tradition, right? So the Ben Ish Chai and the Rebbe and the Baal Shem Tov and his students all thought it was necessary to introduce a lot of these ideas, which I freely share, right? But how do I know what is Kabbalistically true or not, right? It's because of an orientation. It is similar to how I view physics, right? I don't know physics. I don't understand a lot of things in physics. I know some people who are PhDs in math and physics and related things, and I ask them. And in a very similar way, between me and Chacham Hillel, when Chacham Hillel came to Los Angeles, he was in Los Angeles not too long ago, a few months ago. Max and I went to see him. And Chacham Hillel was undisputedly there. Basically, every respected rabbi in Los Angeles was there on stage. There was 3 rows. 3 rows? There was maybe 4 rows. There were dozens of rabbis on the stage, and frankly, the entire theater was filled with people who generally are very knowledgeable and observant in the Torah. And the rabbis on stage were the most prominent rabbis in Orthodox Judaism. And Chacham Hillel was not only treated as the honored guest, but it was understood that he is the person to be most respected in the room, to the point where there was a point somebody was speaking, and Chacham Hillel, may he live long and be well, had a cough, and he decided that he needed to leave the stage for a few minutes. So he stood up to walk off stage, and some people, including me, stood up because he stood up. Generally, that's not done when someone else is speaking and everybody else is sitting, not because it's not nice to. But Chacham Hillel is Chacham Hillel. There is a hierarchy within Judaism of people who know more and more and more. And Chacham Hillel has proved his capacity to reason and teach Talmud, etc., 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 to the point where people understand he is probably Chacham Hillel. Here, I will pull up. This is Chacham Hillel.
Welcome to one of UNHCR's warehouses. We deliver kitchen sets to families who've lost.
Yesterday was Rosh Chodesh, and now we're in the 9 days.
So this is Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Hillel, and he is who he is. He is probably the most widely known and respected ultra-Orthodox Kabbalist in the world. Probably not well beloved in the modern Orthodox and Zionist spaces because he's ultra-Orthodox, he's Haredi, he's non-Zionist. That's Chacham Hillel. Your people don't spend a lot of time listening to him. And he has a book, which frankly is where I got a lot of my understanding of, here, let me pull up his book. Faith and Folly by Feldheim Publishing. You can buy it for $16 at Eichler's. It's on. Don't buy it for $400 on Amazon, for God's sake. Somebody has one listed for $474. Oh God. Yeah, you can get it on Eichler's. And let me see if Eichler still has it. Eichler is out of stock. It might be difficult to get, but this is it's a translation to English, not the best translation of English, but okay one, from Chacham Hillel, which was translated to English. Okay, I guess it's very difficult to get it. The thrift books have a copy. Nope, Thrift Books doesn't have a copy either. I guess it's not so easy to find. Is the Hebrew? The Hebrew one is apparently is available. What can I say? But introductory text depends what you're looking for. I mean, what exactly is the question? That was part of the reason I was like, if somebody wants to jump on and ask questions, I can answer your question. I don't know, like the 13 Petaled Rose by Adin Steinsaltz is kind of an introduction. It's pretty short. If you want to understand the spirit world according to Judaism. For the person who has read the Torah and not the Talmud and isn't Jewish, the general thing we would say is that such a person should probably not be bothering. That's not something a lot of people are very happy with. The Kabbalah of Forgiveness by Dr. Abramson. Sorry, Dr. Abramson is not a rabbi, although that might be. He is. That's available paperback for $10 on Amazon. He gave teachings on it on YouTube. Let me see if I can find his YouTube. Here, you guys can see this. The Kabbalah of Forgiveness, an introduction, and he has a whole playlist. I will share the playlist in the thing. Would you say standing up to someone comes from Netzach and Hod because they have to stand in a balanced way on both legs? Yeah. I mean, that you could certainly say that. I think talking about how Kabbalah is not Masonic is important, even if the Masons rip a bunch of stuff up. Yes, the Masons did get a lot of their views from Christian Kabbalah, and Christian Kabbalah borrowed a lot of its views from what was published of Jewish texts and Jewish Kabbalistic texts at that time. So a lot of it has gotten integrated into it. But the Kabbalah doesn't come from the Masonic. It's the other way around. And of course, there are people who will argue which way around it is, right? But in order to believe that what we as Jews believe is the Kabbalah is not the Kabbalah that existed 2,000 years ago. Also, don't listen to Kabbalists, yes. You have to believe that the esoteric tradition within Judaism both completely died out and that it was able to be replaced by something else. I think that is an incredible mistake. Yeah, Brent, I don't know if I want to go there. That's not something. Sure. Do I know you, Butterboy? Is that Is that who I think it is? Well, we'll see. Oh, it's Andrew's twin. You can certainly jump on. I was worried you were somebody else. I
have a random Second Temple question.
have a random Second Temple answer.
Okay. So Philo, he offhandedly mentions that there's some people who talk about Abraham going to his fathers.
Okay. I am not a great student of Philo, and Philo apparently didn't know Hebrew very well.
That's kind of the thing I'm wondering. I'm wondering if Philo is doing more of an apologetic work, because a lot of time he is very concerned with this is the philosophy of our day, and there's a bunch of Greek people who have his works.
I think Philo may have thought about himself with regard to Judaism in a very similar way as I view my videos. If God forbid in 2,000 years, people were to look at my videos in English and start like taking every stupid thing I said seriously, God have mercy on my soul. Like I am creating content which, God forbid, may be prominent content in certain circles, but that is merely because I speak a language. It's kind of like coming to somebody like me and talking about quantum physics. Like, I can explain some things, and I explain some things well enough that other people were like, oh, Jacob knows so much. But it's like, yeah, but the people who actually know what they're talking about catch me saying stupid things left and right, and I have to say, oops, sorry. Right? And I feel a very similar way about Philo.
All right, I'll have to read them more.
Okay. Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Good. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
It's interesting. I didn't know what Kabbalah was, but today in the Orthodox Church, this was the Sunday of the Last Judgment. So I was just wondering, like, the Jewish understanding of esotericism, and also like your thoughts on Jesus's understanding of the afterlife.
So, Father Stephen very much follows. There's this thing called, I think, the Enoch Project. Let me see what
Enoch Seminar.
Enoch Seminar, right? Enoch Seminar. And I learned about the Enoch Seminar from Father Stephen. Okay. And in fact, when I went to LoserCon, which is the Lord of Spirits convention, Bishop Gallitzin gave a Alexander Gallitzin. I hope
I really like him.
He is well. I don't know how he is right now, but I hope he's doing well. Actually, let me see if
I think he's been dealing with cancer for a little while.
Yeah. How is Bishop Alexander Gallitzin? So he gave a presentation of Jewish sources that people could look into to learn more about Second Temple Judaism. And he and he included Safaria on there. He included Chabad.org on there. And if I remember correctly, he included the Enoch Seminar. He, according to Grok, is doing well. He gave a lecture in August 2025 and ongoing mentions in Orthodox discussions and interviews as recently as early 2026. No reports indicate any health concerns or change in status. His biography and leadership details are prominently featured on sites like DOSOCA.org and OCA.org, confirming he's still leading the diocese. May he live and be well. Yeah, I mean, it's a very broad topic, but generally, Eastern Orthodox, the Eastern Orthodox clergy that I have interacted with and been and am, have been listening to, definitely believe that there was an esoteric tradition during the life of Jesus, and they believe that the Orthodox Church continued that tradition in the after the destruction of the temple, more so obviously than Judaism. But at the same time, a lot of them have been looking back towards Judaism to see what we may have retained and what our texts how they might reflect. So you guys have, what's it called? Philokalia? Is that it?
Yeah, Philokalia.
Philokalia, right? So, I don't actually know much about it when it was written, how much influenced it was by. And the thing is, both of us are not huge fans of secular scholars and the types of things that they say. So it's hard as people who believe in actually being factual and actually paying attention to archaeology and to what evidence we have, such as the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? So Father Stephen and I are very much agreed on our epistemology, right? We believe that we have to understand the physical world as it really exists, and we have to understand our religion and in light of tradition. And I believe that I do believe that the Arizal was actually visited by Elijah the prophet, right? This was only 500 years ago. His teachings, I believe, are validated and have the same authority as if they were Elijah the prophet, right? Obviously, a lot of people find that silly because, what do you mean? Elijah the prophet came to a rabbi 500 years ago, right? That is a belief I personally have. I can't prove it to you, right? At the same time, I am not the type of person to say, all science is bunk, and everything every historian says and all the professors say is bunk. I listen to a lot of that stuff, and I find a lot of it to be enlightening. But I have my own epistemology, which is grounded in faith behind God. Faith in God and faith in God's revelation to my people. I think it's pretty obvious to me. Like, I don't tell Christians I am a Jew. If you don't believe I'm a Jew, fine. Believe I'm not a Jew. Like, just go ahead and treat me like I'm not a Jew, and don't tell me about how I killed Jesus. Okay? But it's funny, the ones who keep on telling me that I'm not a Jew are the ones who keep on telling me that I killed Jesus. It's like, make up your mind. Right? Which is it? Right? And like, yeah, the Jewish people, I believe, were chosen by God to be a light onto the nations. And I think if you look through human history, you see who those people are. I don't understand anyone who could seriously say to me, oh, like, Maimonides wasn't a rabbi. It's like, Thomas Aquinas, a doctor of the church, in his Summa Theologica, he calls him Rabbi Moses. Right? So, like, you're certainly not Catholic. Right? Like, where are you standing, and how does this like, part of the reason I want this to be a conversation is like, okay, give me your arguments, tell me what you're thinking, and I will show you where I think it doesn't match up with reality. But generally, there's just so much incoherent babble out there that it's hard for me to refute all of them, like, one by one.
Yeah, and I'm not even trying to push any agenda or anything. I'm just like coming here to learn from you.
Well, first of all, I think there are better people to learn from, but you're more than welcome. And one of the things that I offer, which better teachers don't, is I am available, unlike the better and smarter teachers. So, I mean, I can point you towards people like Dr. Abramson, right? Is it Abramson or Abrams? Henry
Abramson.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, he knows a lot about Jewish history. He's somebody who's basically, if the two of us were to disagree, so Useful Charts decided to make a chart about Judaism, and because he converted to non-Orthodox Judaism, his views, he did far less research when he put out that video than he generally does, and it was of way worse quality. And I made a response video criticizing it, and he said, he actually reached out to me, and he's like, give me your feedback, etc. And I said, talk to Dr. Abramson, right? Because when it comes at that level, like Useful Charts with 3 million subscribers, Dr. Abramson will talk to him. I'm not sure Dr. Abramson has the time to talk to Andrew and his twin. It's so funny. You two are like kind of twins. And that's why I don't just tell you go ask this person or that person, but I'm willing to share what I know.
Yeah, so what were you guys talking about in regards to Kabbalah for like the first hour before I came?
I was giving a basic overview of the history, and I was trying to dispel a lot of the myths.
What was the thing you mentioned with Richard Rowland and Jonathan Joe all about? I don't get the reference. What's the reference?
So a while back, on one of their shows, so they do a show together. I forget what the name of it is.
Universal History or whatever.
Yeah, Universal History. Richard Rowland just briefly mentioned Kabbalah and said that he might want to do an episode on it. And I immediately wrote an email to Father Stephen asking him to forward my email and saying, please, for the love of God, if you are going to do that, give me an opportunity to at least Richard Rowland is the worst idea. I am perfectly happy for him to do it. I just want, before he does it, like my request to him, and I made the same request to Jonathan Pajot, is like, talk to Father Stephen DeYoung. I mean, if you want to talk to somebody at least talk to Father Stephen. And B, if you give me a chance to at least bring up things that I personally would find, hey, can you please consider this or that? At least give me a chance before you publicize it to give you some sort of feedback. That was my request. I have not heard from them, so I don't know what they decided to do with that. But do you have any idea what their fans will do? Yes, they're so Jonathan Pajot is well aware that he has anti-Semitic fans who will say stupid things. And he is of the opinion that hopefully the gospel and being members of the church will help those people be less stupid than they are. And he tries his best, and he tries to avoid controversy, actually. Pajot really does. Like, he really, really does. And I trust him that he wants to avoid controversy. But when I did speak to him, I did get a chance to speak to him because I bought a whatchamacallit. When I did speak to him, a lot of what I had to say was like, because there was somebody else who had also, like, I couldn't afford any one-on-one. It was a group thing. There was somebody else, and he was part of the discussion that the three of us had, and I don't think Jonathan would mind me discussing this, is at some point, I think you have to be willing to bear your cross and speak the truth, and allow people to attack you. And that's just a part of being Israel, which Christians believe they are, and who we believe we are as Jews. And so, sometimes you have to, and walk into the fray, right? And Jonathan Pajot said that sounds scary, and it does, and he's right. But I mean, I believe that he has more that he has more gumption than I do, because God gave him a bigger platform to speak the truth than I have. So God must know what he's doing. Hello, Colonimus. By the way, Colonimus, you were supposed to come on and we were supposed to have a discussion. Who's Richard Rowland and why does he care about Kabbalah? Richard Rowland is a deacon in the Eastern Orthodox Church and a collaborator with Jonathan Pajot. And they care much about symbolism and history, and they believe in this idea that there's a universal history, and they have some ideas of soft perennialism, which I agree with. And so he started talking about the LDS, the Mormons, and I mean, you can't really talk about the Mormons without talking about the Kabbalah. I was surprised by the cesspool element in Pajot's comment section. You are not the only one. Jonathan Pajot has been infinitely surprised by the stupidity in his comment section anytime he talks about this stuff. And it's part of the reason he doesn't talk about the stuff as much. There is definitely anti-Semitism there. And frankly, I think I don't see how Jonathan could be doing more about it in too many ways. I mean, if he's planning on doing a comprehensive dive, he could just read Inner Space on stream. I think that's a good preview of the topic. If it's the book I think you're saying, if it's the book I remember, no, I can't find the book Inner Space that you're talking about. Inner Space. Oh, it's by Mosnaim Publishing. Okay. Oh, it's Rabbi Kaplan. Oh, it's Aryeh Kaplan. Okay. Yeah, Aryeh Kaplan's pretty good. Yeah. I didn't realize it was Aryeh Kaplan. Okay. Yeah, Aryeh Kaplan is, yeah. Part of the problem is I don't think he's willing to do that. But yes, Aryeh Kaplan is a perfectly kosher source and a much better source than I am. Pajot fans already have a problem with Messiah and prophet complexes. I really doubt this is a good idea. I think this might be part of the reason they haven't done it. I am afraid that Richard and now he goes by Seraphim. That Seraphim and Jonathan might be of the opinions that Ron, one of the people I was hoping would show up. I'm serious.
Okay.
And I will tell you why in a minute once I catch up with the rest of the thing.
Okay.
I hope that they did not take my email as a warning telling them not to do, because I actually would like them to talk about these things. I just hope that they will do it in a very well studied manner. Richard Rowland has one of the most fabulous heads of hair on the entire internet. Okay. Soft perennialism as in Melchizedek. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Yeah, Arya Kaplan's great. They're going to explain it like it's Hegel, and it's going to get French Derrida all over again. I could believe that. If I am getting a correct impression of his fans, they want to hear about our opinions on souls and how that plays into their opinions about Jews. They probably don't care about the subject itself. I think there's definitely some people like that, but I think there's a lot of faithful Eastern Orthodox Christians who just generally like to understand their religion better. And part of the reason I did want Ron to show up is because one of the reasons that I decided to do this stream is there's a lot of people talking about spiritual warfare, including people in the psych wards that I'm working at. Mm-hmm. And I believe spiritual warfare is real. Mm-hmm. I believe that, and I mean, so earlier today, I Ready to Harvest did a video on new denominations, and he said something weird about the Theobro podcast. And have you heard of the Theobro podcast?
No. I know what. No, I don't. Let's just go with no.
Yeah, so it's a Reform podcast, and because of the podcast, they came up with a new denomination of Reformed Baptists, and a lot of people, which I'm very close with, are Reformed Baptists, right? Like a lot of people I very much respect are Reformed Baptist pastors. And so I was wondering what it is, and when I looked into it, it was over this whole thing of there's a podcast called The Fringe or The Reformed Fringe or something, which was done by one of the members of the Theobro podcast. Anyway, it talks about the divine council and the spiritual and Heiser and stuff like that. And people had like this has split the denomination apart and ended the Theobro podcast. And frankly, I agree with the one guy who was saying, well, this sounds like Satan getting involved in trying to keep people from talking about spiritual warfare.
Okay. Yeah.
And frankly, it does sound perfectly like that to me as well. And it's like, to the degree that I am capable of, I do want to encourage Christians who believe in God and the spiritual and the forces of good and evil. And look, I don't like hearing Christians say to me, which I have had Christians say to me, resist not evil.
Hell no. Sorry.
Well, resist not evil is a quote from Jesus.
No, here's the thing, and I'm cussing just for shock value, but no. So let's just. How can I be of service? And I'm like, I'm good at spiritual warfare, and I'll tell you why. I think I synthesized it down to some simple things. One of them, Paul Vanderklay helped me out with, just as he said, spiritual warfare at its end is getting someone back into a normal, quiet, consistent Christian life.
I would agree with that.
Okay, yes, that is the end game of all spiritual warfare.
Right.
And because I'm not going to tell you anything new. I'm not going to, there's nothing. So instead of me just running my mouth, I'm glad, yeah.
Just to agree with what you said, right? The Kaddish ends, and the Jewish prayers often end with Oseh Shalom Bimramav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael. You've probably heard that, right? He who makes peace in the heavens should make peace for us, and for us and all of Israel, and say Amen, right? So that's a lot of Jewish, and we want peace in the world, but we start that with Oseh Shalom Bimramav. He makes peace in the heavens, right? Because we do believe in a state of spiritual brokenness that exists in heaven, which needs to be healed, right?
Okay.
Because we believe that the brokenness of the world is material brokenness in the world is a reflection of spiritual brokenness in the world, right? And so, the reason for this stream is that I think there's a lot of misunderstanding that people have about what it means for things to be esoteric, for what mysticism is, and the roots of Christianity, in Jewish mysticism, right? There are clear places where I think you can, certainly when Paul talks about visiting second heaven, right? He is referring to that esoteric tradition there. I mean, where is that? We can pull it up and read it.
Are you talking about New Testament or Old?
Paul of Tarsus.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Second Corinthians 12.
Yeah. Right.
Here. 2 Corinthians 12, if I can get it to show. And let's do New King James. Let's do ESV. ESV good?
Can I share something with you?
RSV is a little better.
I'll give you something.
Okay. Yeah. What do you want to share?
Well, I'll tell you. I'll wait. It's just something that happened today at church. And it's just an anecdotal moment about it. Like an example of spiritual warfare. I'm at church and I dress like a schlep all the time, and I'm not disrespectful, but and I go into church and I'm up at the front and there's worship going on, and I know pretty much everybody in the church. And one of my friends, she's a young 20-something family, friends of family, and she brought a friend to church. And when I looked at her, she's like 21, 22, like that. I'm like, something's not right. Something. And it's rare for me to act on an impulse like this. I'll usually just pray for people at a distance. And I just went up to him like, hi, I'm fishing. If I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong. But are you okay? And she got quiet. And I was like, hey, listen, I'm sorry to interfere with you. And I was about to leave. And then she starts crying. And I'm like, oh, man. And I'm like, how can I pray for you? And she goes, I need to trust. And I'm like, oh, dude. Yeah. And I kind of talked about forgiveness and all that, but there was I'm playing in a place where she wasn't prepared to go. And I knew to I just said, hey, listen, thanks for letting me talk. And I just want to let you know I'll be praying for you. And I forget. You know me, I'm a goofball. You know what I mean? Like that's one of my characters, and I said something about how I'm like, yeah, you know, you travel through the valley, you don't camp there. It was just it was a quick remark, and she kind of laughed, and for a moment, she recognized that I saw her, and I just didn't want to say, "Hey, I see you," you know. But it was nice that in her pain, I'm just like, hey, you're not alone. I'll let you be with God now. And I want to fix everybody, but I'm learning I can't. And maybe just being recognized in a moment and not suffering by yourself, and then opening the door for God to do the work. And I can leave her alone, let God be God. That if that happened today, that's spiritual warfare at its best, is when you just help a little bit.
Yeah. No, and seriously, I think just being aware and being like, hey, is everything, and sincerely asking people, hey, how you doing? Right?
Yeah.
And actually meaning it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
I honestly think, like, seriously going to a person and being like, hey, how are you doing? And actually being interested in how that person is doing may be the highest form of spiritual warfare.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so what? And I'm glad, you're glad I'm here. What? Instead of me rambling, what do you think spiritual warfare is? How do you define it? And do you believe in angels, demons, and outside agencies that are malevolent and benevolent?
Yes. So let me just read.
And ladies and gentlemen, that it concludes today's stream. Yes.
Let me just read this. This is from 2 Corinthians 12. Sorry. Not 1 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 12. I must post, there is nothing to be gained by it, but I will go on to visions and revelations of the Lord. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. Sorry, I said second heaven. Whether in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And most Christians seem to agree that Paul is actually talking about himself. And I know that this man was caught up into paradise, whether in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And he heard things that cannot be told, which man may not utter. On behalf of this man I will boast, but on my own behalf I will not boast, except of my weakness. Though if I wish to boast, I shall not be a fool, for I shall be speaking the truth. But I refrain from it, so that no one may think more of me than he sees in me or hears from me. And to keep me from being too elated by the abundance of revelations, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan, to harass me, to keep me from being too elated. 3 times I besought the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. I will all the more gladly boast of my weaknesses, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Okay, now this is just to clarify for any Christian out there, right, who believes that the idea of the esoteric, visiting paradise, etc., is like superstitious, magical thinking that was brought into the church either by the Catholics or Satan or Jews or whatever, right? This is right there, and you have to deal with it.
I think that's something that the Orthodox Church has preserved better than any other denomination. It's the mystical aspects. Like you mentioned how like Elijah visited the Jewish guy about 500 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, in the church, like we have stories of saints who have passed on from this life and still reappear throughout the world.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, you have the Philokalia and stuff, but when it comes to, you know, my main thing was to just allow this stream for people to ask what they wanted to know about Jewish mysticism. Now, I have to say, there is a rationalist part of Judaism, and the rationalists are the ones who tend to be the ones who go to college and write and become professors and write the books, right? Especially people like Jacob Neusner, right? And they will quote certain things which Maimonides said to basically disenchant the world and turn it rationalistic. I think that is a misreading of Maimonides to begin with. And even if I'm not going to be dismissive of Maimonides the way some writings of the Vilna Gaon appear to be, because I come more from the Hasidic tradition. But the Vilna Gaon, who was a leader among that the rationalists like to claim spiritual descent from, basically says that Maimonides was corrupted by philosophy, and what he says is completely wrong. That's what the Vilna Gaon says. Now, the vast majority of Orthodox Jews, I mean, Andrew came to Shabbat dinner once or twice with me and Max, right? And the home of the very nice person who made us dinner included several amulets, probably things I wouldn't necessarily have in my home, but that are very commonly used by various people, like
Jewish?
Yeah.
Kabbalah.
Or Orthodox Jewish amulets, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, yes. I mean, yeah. So when it comes down to like charms and amulets and stuff like that, in terms of spiritual warfare, now, do I believe that if there's something that seems spiritually wrong in your household, you should check your mezuzahs? Yeah, I have no problem with that. And some people think that's way too woo-woo. I don't think that's woo-woo. So, like, do I believe in demons? And yeah, I believe in demons, and I believe in angels, and I believe in visitation by, by angels to people. We don't talk a lot about this stuff, partially because we believe that Lo yimna tov laholchim betamim, this is a verse in Psalms, God will not keep goodness from those who walk simply, right? And yeah, I'm not sure you understood what I was saying, Kalanimus. The Vilna Gaon was being dismissive of Maimonides for being too rationalistic. That's what I was saying. But yeah, so like I sincerely say to people, like, don't bother demons, and they hopefully will not bother you.
No,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
No, well, I'll give you. This is just my opinion. Now,
Yeah.
if you're smoking, I'm sorry. What's that?
I was just say real quick, just look at Adam and Eve. Like it's not like Adam and Eve were trying.
Right.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Actually, if you're doing good, sometimes you get picked on.
Oh,
Adam
hold
and
on. If a demon is picking on you, then I certainly believe in fighting back. That's not a
Sorry.
Yeah, what I meant was yeah, okay. So like you're talking about the rationalists like Rabbi Yitzchak who believes that the Zohar is just a forgery. Like, yeah, that's not me. Yeah. And yes, Maimonides, certainly as he is commonly understood when it comes to angels and demons, was a dat yachid, which means a singular opinion, meaning not part of the majority, certainly, and to the point where you really can't rely on him unless you rely on him in all things. But yeah, when it comes down to it, like generally, I would say don't go looking for fights with demons.
Yeah. Dude, you work in the mental health industry, right?
I do. Yes.
Okay, because all right, I've been helping support groups and doing jail ministry for about on and off for about 25 years.
Okay.
And what I've just seen too much. It's actually at this point, I got subjectively November 15th, 1999, middle of the dirt field. I have an encounter that I can only express as I give my heart to God and he shows up and wham. But I can't show that other than I stop doing drugs and I get my mind back, which, okay. Then I start doing jail ministry and most of the stuff that, I read the Bible and you're like, oh, cast out demons, heal stuff. I'm like, don't know about it, but let's give this a try kind of a moment. And because the kids were in need and distress, they're like, would you please pray for me? And I remember this one time, this kid had profound mental illness. I didn't know. He's like, would you pray for him? I'm like, yeah, sure. Lord, heal him in Jesus' name. Next, the kid has a radical transformation. And at this point, he goes, I can get off my meds. And I told him, like, no, don't. And he looked at me like, you crazy, boy. Like, you don't understand what just happened. And over the years, I've seen too many transformations that were, and I'm not trying to J-bomb your channel right now, but you know what I mean? I'm not trying to be rude at all.
No.
I've seen too many prayers where I use his name and there's an immediate effect. And I've seen once where a girl had these random, in more than one case, they have a lot of tormenting dreams, anxieties, like normal psychological stuff. And I'll just throw a prayer of Jesus at it. And I saw this one girl, she looked like she got hit in the face with a pie or squirt, like it wasn't bad. She just was like shocked. And she got, like it was, I think it was voices in her head or something. And they were like gone. And she goes, what'd you do? And I'm like, I didn't do nothing. I just prayed. And I've seen his name be used consistently with an effect And it's not just a moment of change, but a transformation. And this is the part that cracked me up. There was a lesbian nurse, as you know, on staff. Her name was Shorty, her nickname. She was nice. We always got along, but I knew she was lesbian, and she was probably didn't want to hear this stuff, and I never came at her. She came up to me one day. She goes, "Ron, I got something to share with you." I'm like, "Yeah, what's that, Shorty?" She goes, "I was she goes, I listened to you, and I was watching this horror movie," and she goes, "I felt something in my house." And I'm like, "All right." And she goes, "And then I told it to leave in Jesus' name, and it split and it shook the pots." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." It cracked me. I'm like, "Way to go, Shorty." But I've seen, so the spiritual realm is real. And the funny thing, me at the TLC, like I was Mr. Mega Woo back in 2000. And I was looking for fights I shouldn't have been in, and I was immature. And now I'm at the point where I find myself in the TLC learning to use critical thinking and rational thought. And I am now almost the most averse to exorcism. I'll do them. But first, I'm going to ask you, do you want to be free? And are you willing to stop smoking pot? And are you willing to clean up your room? And are you willing to go to bed at the right time? And if you are not, and oh, by the way, first thing I want you to do is go to a psychologist or a medical doctor and get a checkup.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do those things, we ain't talking.
Right.
But the cool thing, and I've seen this anyhow, so I'm ranting a little bit. It's real, but it can be used more like a scalpel or a tourniquet when needed. It's the last line of defense. And a normal spiritual life, whether Jewish or Christian or whatever, when it's normalized in a community and you adhere to the normalness of that community, a lot of the stuff splits.
That's the idea behind Fountain of Comfort. How much have you heard me talk about Fountain of Comfort? Okay, so Fountain of Comfort. So when I started, like, people started watching my channel a lot, I decided that I wanted to make it do something real in the world, right? And especially since much of it was due to Father Stephen's participation, the idea was to come up with a charitable project, right? That both Orthodox Jews and Orthodox Christians, more capital O, but also lowercase o, Christians and Jews could participate in and believe that this is spiritually, it comes from the right place and with right spiritual guidance, right? So I decided on Fountain of Comfort, based, mostly on things I wanted to do in my life and where I felt God is guiding me, right? And I decided to go have a discussion with my rabbi to ask him about this idea and how to go forward with it. And he said a lot of things which which made me reframe how this project I was going to do it, right? And one of the things he said was, an Orthodox Jewish plumber, right, does his work faithfully, he doesn't start a synagogue that's a plumbing business on the side. He starts a plumbing business that is, you know, it's a plumbing business that is guided by Torah and by Jewish spirituality, right? And the next week, 2 of the members of the board of directors of Fountain of Comfort, which Tim used to be much more involved. He's got kids and he's too busy. He's still on the board. He's actually our treasurer, right? And Trey, who you probably know, right? The 3 of us went also to talk to this guide who Tim's family is very close to. So there's a Eastern Orthodox monastery near Fresno. But it's a convent. It's a female monastery. They call it a monastery, but it's nuns there.
Okay.
And the abbess there, Mother Markella, is kind of known as a miracle worker, and we didn't know if we would get a chance to talk to her or not. But we went to talk to her.
Yeah.
And we did get a chance to talk to her. And about my ideas and about Fountain of Comfort and stuff. And like all 3 of us very much felt like there was something miraculous going on. Trey started laughing like a fool, and Mother Markella said, "Why are you laughing?" And it's just everything you're saying is just too perfect with the stuff Jacob has been saying. And the way I describe the encounter is I never thought a Eastern Orthodox abbess would sound so much like a rabbi, because a lot of the things she said was very much in line with the stuff that my rabbi said. But one of the things that she said was, and so Fountain of Comfort is a public resource for mental health. That's our tag, right? Public resource for mental health. Just like you build a fountain in a village, right? And whoever needs comes for the water, right? You build it for everyone, and some people need it more and some people need it less, but it's there for everyone, right? So one of the things she said was people come to her and ask her oftentimes about people who have mental health problems. And she says, I will pray for them, of course, the exact same way I will pray for somebody who has cancer. But when somebody comes with me for cancer, I tell them, okay, you have to go to the doctor. You have to take your medications. You have to do the surgery. You have to do all of this stuff. Right?
Yeah.
And the people who think of spiritual warfare as an easy way around, right? It's prosperity gospel. It's
now
it's,
if I
put
sorry, go ahead.
I put my coin into the vending machine that is God, and I say what I am going to get. And God is not your vending machine in the sky that you get to put the coin in and tell him what you get.
Right. No, I get you. Mike, I am tracking with you. This is the weird thing, and you might like this, but I'm one of those guys who did put my coin in the slot. I was a burnout. I was on my way to becoming an addict. You know, I was at least I was a real burnout. I was damaged. I had demons Because actually, I thought I was, I wanted to be spiritual,
Hmm.
and I was getting there, And when I had my aha moment, Shazam moment,
Mhm.
I didn't. I have to agree with you. I didn't expect to get what I got. I am happy though that I got it. It cost me a lot because it wrecked my life for a while, but I also got free and healed. Um, and I don't know, but I do agree with you. Can you tease that out a little bit more for me? Because I want to know what you think spiritual warfare is in the woo way. Because I have some questions for you actually, but I want to ask. I want.
A few years ago, we had this discussion a lot in TLC with several people, and the question was,
Mhm.
what's the difference between magic and a miracle? What's the difference between magic and a miracle?
Okay.
And I said, and I think a lot of people came to the same conclusion. Obviously, everything wise I've ever said, I've plagiarized from the rabbis. But a miracle is when you say, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And a magic is when you say, my will be done on earth as it is in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're
Okay.
with magic, you're trying to take things from your mind and put them into the world.
Okay.
And your prayer is commanding God, right?
I'm listening.
Whereas an actual prayer and miracle workers, and I have definitely seen people who have worked miracles, and I've seen them work miracles.
Right.
I believe their whole thing is, I am going to be a conduit. I am going to allow God to use me in the world as He wills to do what He wants done.
Right. Okay.
So I'll tell you one of my miracle stories.
All right.
I went to study with one of my rabbis, and just normal way. I had a weekly study session with him, and I go to him, and it was a Friday, and they had just bought the Chabad house that you've seen, Andrew, but this was when they first bought it, and it was a complete mess. It had to be totally fixed up in order for anybody to use it, right? And so I went to visit the rabbi, and I said to the rabbi, so I'm learning with him, and he said to me, Yaakov, I need $3,000. And I said, was it $3,000 or $5,000? I don't remember if it was $3,000 or $5,000, but at the end of the story, you'll see why I can't remember which it was. He said, I need $3,000. And I said, well, that's not a huge amount. I can think of people we can ask, and we could raise $3,000. He's like, yeah, but I need it today. And I'm like, well, it's a Friday. Can't it wait until Monday? He said, no, I met with the plumber this morning, and he said that if I don't give him a deposit, he's going to have to stop work. So I wrote the check, and he's going to cash it today. And so I have to deposit the money into my bank account today so that the check won't bounce.
Mhm.
And I'm like, you wrote the check? And he's like,
He wrote it. He wrote it in faith.
he said, I didn't have a choice. He was gonna stop. Okay. Right? He's gonna stop work. I'm like,
Right.
okay. He said, I have to go learn with somebody else. I'll be back, and we'll figure out what we're gonna do. And I'm like, okay. When he leaves, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, $3,000. Like maybe we could take a loan somehow, and like weekend, right? We can go ask lots of people, right? So he comes back, and he has a check in his pocket for $3,000. He says, the person I went to learn with, and the check was like written yesterday. Okay.
Oh, that's neat.
The guy he had gone to learn with had spoken with his wife, and they had decided that for the next 5 years, they were going to give, either it was for 3 years, they were going to give $5,000, or for 5 years, they were going to give $3,000, or maybe it was for $5,000 for 5 years, something like that, right? And so he had decided with his wife they were going to give that much every year. And this was the first installment.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And like, as far as I'm concerned, that was an obvious miracle. Right?
Yeah. I got you.
It was God making things happen the way he makes it happen, and I don't believe in coincidences, and I don't believe,
No, I got you.
You can call it synchronicity all you like.
No, I won't. No, I've seen that. That's especially when the check was dated the day before.
The check was written before Rabbi Wagner wrote the check.
Yeah. No, I'm cool with that.
I know for a fact that the check was written before Rabbi Wagner wrote the check to the plumber. Right? And, that to me is the type of faith that causes miracles. Here, I'll tell you another story. This is one of my favorite Baal Shem Tov stories. So the story goes, the Baal Shem Tov, he used to travel a lot, and he was in a certain synagogue, and somebody comes to him with his prayer book and says to the Baal Shem Tov, I know how to read Hebrew, but I don't understand it. Right? And Ron, I'm sure you've met a lot of Jews who know how to read Hebrew, but don't understand it. Yeah. I was the same until I took college Hebrew classes.
Okay.
And he said, so I read my prayer book from beginning to end every day. Right? And could you tell me where my prayers are supposed to be so I say the correct prayers? And the Baal Shem Tov takes out either colored strings or colored pieces of paper. I forget what it was. Right? And he puts these markers into the prayer book.
Yeah.
This is where the morning prayers start. This is the evening prayers. This is the afternoon prayers. This is the evening prayers. Right? And gives him the markers, right? The prayer book markers, and they say goodbye and part ways. And the Baal Shem Tov, as was his custom, goes off to pray meditate in the forest. And the guy turns to go home, and a strong wind comes and blows the prayer book out of his hand, knocks it out of his hand, and all the markers go flying. So he goes and picks up the markers and starts running after the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov was seemed to be walking. He was known to walk in a way that was kind of miraculous, right? So the guy was having trouble catching up to the Baal Shem Tov.
Yeah.
Baal Shem Tov gets to a cliff, and he takes out his handkerchief, and he jumps and glides down the cliff.
Okay.
And this guy sees this, so he takes out his handkerchief and jumps,
no.
and he glides down the cliff.
Oh, okay.
And he continues following the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov gets to a river, and he takes his handkerchief and he drops it on the river, and it lays flat on the river, and the Baal Shem Tov steps on it and glides across the river. So the guy takes out his handkerchief, drops it onto the river, and it lays flat, and he steps on it and he glides across the river. And the Baal Shem Tov finally gets to the clearing where he was going to meditate, and this guy followed him, right? And he gets to him and he says, Rabbi, a wind came and knocked the prayer book out of my hand, and I lost all the marker. Could you put him back for me? And the Baal Shem Tov asks him, how did you get here? He says, well, I followed you. He says, well, how'd you get down the cliff? He says, well, I did what you did. Baal Shem Tov says to him, it's okay. You go back and you pray exactly like you've been praying until now. Now, there's a famous saying about Hasidim. If you believe every story of the Baal Shem Tov, you're a fool. If you don't believe any of them, you're a heretic. And it's much better to be a fool than a heretic.
Oh, dude, I love that. I'm stealing that. I love that. You know,
RJ, since you're saying this, I have to tell you, I told a Litvak this story, and he said to me, I don't believe it. Like, what do you mean you don't believe it? It's a Baal Shem Tov story. He says, I don't believe it. The Baal Shem Tov would never let somebody make so many brachas l'batala. And if you're an Orthodox Jew, you understand why a Litvak would say something that silly. But okay, that's the, I'm sorry, it's the punchline, and I can't explain it. But hopefully RJ understands the punchline. Hot facts, exactly. Yes.
Oh, I'm hurt. I love that. I love that one. Dang, dude.
Yeah.
That's when in your, how many years have you been practicing or like doing?
Well, okay. So my parents raised me kind of like, traditional in that we went to Orthodox synagogues when we went, usually.
Right.
The synagogues we went to were usually like modern Orthodox-ish synagogues.
Right. Okay.
But we didn't go to synagogue very often. I remember once when I was a kid, on a Friday night, I'd already gone to sleep, and my dad, he used to work late. He taught night school, so he would get home like 9 or 10, right? And I remember this one time on a Friday night, my dad got home and he said he woke us up because he said he wants to make Kiddush and have a Friday night Kiddush, right? And I just thought it was the strangest thing in the world, right? That he wanted to make Kiddush. And like he made Kiddush and we went back to sleep, right?
Yeah.
So that's how often we got Kiddush was, family, when my sister has family over, we go and my nephew makes Kiddush, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the type of family I grew up with.
Okay.
In high school, I started becoming more and more interested in religion. Especially, I have to say, one of the things that really affected me was Dostoevsky's book Crime and Punishment. I read that when I was 12,
Okay.
and it has. I have to say, to my great shame, it is the. I have to say it's the book that's probably had the most effect on me in my life.
No shame. Well, that's cool. I like it.
I should be able to say that the Bible has had more effect on me in my life.
What if?
But
All right, I'm gonna leave you alone. But okay.
The fact is, when I was 12,
Yeah.
I read Crime and Punishment, and that
Okay.
that was absolutely foundational.
Okay.
I have no idea what Nick was showing us. Was that Crime and Punishment in your lap? No. Okay. But that book very much affected me and put me in in a line of, trying to live my life according to what I believe is true and what is right, and caring about what is good and right in the world, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
so when I got to college, I took Hebrew classes. I started learning more about Judaism. And then after college, I became friends. So when I used to live, I used to work very close to, like, within walking distance of where I am right now, is where I used to work at a homeless shelter. And I lived in the valley. So on Friday nights, if you want to go home from where I was working, it's like a 2-hour drive. But without traffic, it's like a 20-minute drive.
Okay.
So what I would do is I would go to UCLA, and there's a Chabad there. And I would have dinner, Friday night dinner at the Chabad. And that way, when I drove home at 9 o'clock, as opposed to at 6, right?
Yeah.
It was a 20-minute drive, and I had dinner, right? It was nice.
Right.
I could have arrived at home at 8, all tired without dinner, or I could drive home at 9, having eaten dinner and like had a nice, and I had friends at UCLA, et cetera, et cetera. And through my friendship there, I became more religious. I ended up going to yeshiva for a year in Israel. And in a very weird sense, while I'm not as observant as I was, there was a time when I was a lot more observant of halakha.
Right.
Say my prayers 3 times a day, et cetera, keep Shabbat, et cetera, keep very strict kosher, et cetera.
Yeah.
I have to say, I believe generally in my life, if not every year, every 10 years, I have been more faithful. I've grown in my faith journey.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm 48 now, and my beliefs at 48 are not what they were at 38 and 28 and 18 and 8. But I believe that my life has been, walking through the valley of the shadow of death.
And I'm gonna ask you, like, I'm not gonna filter myself, but I'm not coming at you at all. Do you, like, I experience God's presence, like it's a tangible thing. I never had that in temple, and I'm not putting down temple. And I was too.
You can put down temple, any place that calls itself a temple.
Well, I'm work with me, Jacob. It's just work with me, Babala.
Ron, I have to say, I know many Jews who converted to Christianity, and I believe that converting from Reform and conservative, what most people understand to be Judaism, to Christianity, is a step towards Orthodox Judaism, because it
Okay.
it seems to me that is a step up as opposed to a step away. Because look, most Reform and conservative rabbis don't believe in God.
But you,
I
yeah,
know it sounds like I'm saying something. It's something they themselves say.
What the? Jacob.
I'm not insulting them.
No, no. I believe you. I'm not laughing at you.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm like, dude, who put acid in the Kool-Aid? Like, all right, anyhow. So, all right, so, man, I don't want to hijack your stream because I love this subject because it's very hands-on for me.
On my streams, we stay on topic. We never go off topic. I'm joking.
Yeah, I got you. Well, okay, because I have some questions that actually the reason I'm asking because I really don't know myself. But I'm also wondering why you wanted this stream. It's a cool topic, but what was the motivating factor to talk about such a non-TLC woo thing that will, it's fun. It's like UFOs, Elvis, Bigfoot, and woo.
Well, I mean, I have to say maybe the TLC has become a lot more rationalist than when I considered myself part of the TLC. But part of one of the first streams I ever did, was about Jewish mysticism with Sherry.
Okay.
5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
It wasn't. It was before I had my own channel.
Okay.
Right. And something that, I used to talk about it on my channel a lot more than I do now. But one of the things that I used to very much talk about was like, yeah, I believe the world is 5,787 years old.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Still?
I believe in miracles, and I believe, in the coming of the Messiah, and I believe in the resurrection of the dead, like the physical resurrection of the dead.
Right?
I've got a random question.
What's your random question?
Okay. So
His random questions are never random. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. It kind of ties into Dostoevsky. I don't know if you want it to tie into Dostoevsky, but a lot of Dostoevsky is the importance of listening to your evil inclination, right? In Crime and Punishment, Raskolnikov thinks he can excise his evil inclination, right? There's this evil pawnbroker. She does a lot of terrible stuff. The world would be better off without her. The only reason that she's alive is, these people, they're too cowardly to do what's right, which is to kill her. And I don't have an evil inclination. I
am the Superman.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. And he kills her. And he goes nuts. And he repents.
Which is the proof that he actually had a good inclination.
Yes. And I'm wondering, is the whole idea of well, you know more about this than me.
I know more about almost everything than you, other than physics.
Yeah, probably. In Christianity, it seems like your evil inclination is given to you by your demon.
So this is the discussion that that Yosef was having with Father Stephen on Romans 7. Did you listen to that?
I listened to it, and I'm not sure.
Yosef,
I remember.
Yosef thinks, and I bow to his knowledge, that Paul's concept of the evil inclination is very different from mainstream rabbinic concept of evil inclination. Paul seems to think that without Jesus, there is no capacity. You have to die because the evil inclination is so strong that you have to die with Christ in order to have a good inclination. Whereas Judaism believes, as it says in Genesis 4, right, that sin is crouching at the door, but you shall rule over it. That actually God has given all of us the capacity to choose life, right? Like it says in Deuteronomy 30, it says it is not too hard for you what I ask you, right? You can choose life. And Paul seems to reinterpret that, saying, who shall go to the depths of hell to bring it? He seems to believe that it's not a rhetorical. This is what I hate about Paul. He turns rhetorical questions into the Bible. He takes rhetorical questions in the Bible, and he answers them in the opposite of what they are meant to bring out. And he does this several times. And one of them is here, we can pull up Deuteronomy 30. Deuteronomy 30. Hard to type with a 50-pound poodle.
She's spoiled.
Deuteronomy 30. Okay, who wants to read? Somebody read.
And when all these things come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and call them to mind among all the nations where the Lord your God has driven you, and return to the Lord your God, you and your children, and obey his voice in all that I command you this day, with all your heart and with all your soul, then the Lord your God will restore your fortunes and have compassion upon you, and he will gather you again from all the peoples where the Lord your God has scattered you. If your outcasts are in the uttermost parts of heaven, from there the Lord your God will gather you, and from there he will fetch you, and the Lord your God will bring you into the land which your fathers possessed, that you may possess it, and he will make you more prosperous and numerous than your fathers. And the Lord your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your offspring, so that you will love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, that you may live. And the Lord your God will put all these curses upon your foes and enemies who persecuted you, and you shall again obey the voice of the Lord and keep all his commandments which I command you this day. The Lord your God will make you abundantly prosperous in all the work of your hand, in the fruit of your body, and in the fruit of your cattle, and in the fruit of your ground. The Lord will again take delight in prospering you, as he took delight in your fathers, if you obey the voice of the Lord your God to keep his commandments and his statutes, which are written in this book of the law, if you turn to the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul.
You know?
For this commandment which I command you this day is not too hard for you, neither is it far off. It is not in heaven, that you should say, who will go up for us to heaven and bring it to us, that we may hear and do it. Neither is it beyond the sea, that you should say, who will go over the sea for us and bring it to us, that we may hear and do it. But the word is very near you, it is in your mouth and in your heart, so that you can do it. See, I have set before you this day life and good, death and evil. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day, by loving the Lord your God, by walking in his ways, and by keeping his commandments and his statutes and his ordinances, then you shall live and multiply, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land which you are entering to take possession of it. But if your heart turns away, and you will not hear, but are drawn away to worship other gods and serve them, I declare to you this day that you shall perish. You shall not live long in the land which you are going over the Jordan to enter and possess. I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore choose life, that you and your descendants may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying his voice and cleaving to him, for that means life to you and length of days, that you may dwell in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them.
So Paul actually quotes this line, as apparently from the Septuagint, right? That who will go up into heaven, right? And beyond the sea, I think under the sea is how the Septuagint translates it, and bring it to us that we may hear it and do it. And he says, oh, it's Jesus who's going to do that. And it's like, no, that's not what it said.
He's the firstborn, bro. He's the first. He did it as an example.
If you say so.
I've heard Christians say that, like, especially during the time of Christ, that the Jews thought that people who weren't upholding the Torah were like actively preventing the Messiah from coming. Is that true?
We still believe that. Like,
okay,
not observing the Torah is what the reason the Messiah has not come yet is because of our sins.
Gotcha. But don't you think that's the whole point of the Messiah coming, is to help us?
No.
Okay.
So there's a verse which Paul quotes, "Uva l'tzion goel l'shaveh pesha beYaakov," and I know it because we say it so many times in Jewish prayer. And will come to Zion a redeemer to those who repent of sin in Jacob, right? It's when you repent of sin that the redeemer will come. First you repent, and then the redeemer comes. Whereas Paul misstates that verse as well, and he says the redeemer will come to cause repentance of sin in Jacob. And it's like, nope, you cart before the horse. What God wants is repentance.
Okay. And I know also Paul talks in Romans about how the law was more so to show us how sinful we are, and that no man has ever kept all the law. Do you agree with that interpretation of it, or no?
No, and neither does Father Stephen.
Really?
Yes. We've had this discussion many times. The Bible in several places says that various people kept the law, including David. Explicitly is said to have kept the entirety of the law. Enoch, for example, was sinless. Noah, the other people are described as saints in the Bible. So no, that is Martin Luther's interpretation, which Father Stephen assures me is completely wrong.
What's Father Stephen's interpretation of it?
He thinks that the law is. I mean, so he had a argument with whatchamacallit about it. Lucky with Sam Titteman, if I remember correctly, but he says that while the law convicts us of the fact that we are sinful, it's not that, I mean, that God doesn't disagree. Father Stephen reads Paul as not disagreeing with Deuteronomy 30, right? Which says that it is not too difficult and it is possible for us to keep the law. Because like Deuteronomy 30 says that explicitly. And Genesis 4 says that explicitly. You can rule over sin. He just believes that it's through Jesus that was made possible.
Are you talking about Paul or Father? Sorry to interrupt you, Nick.
Father Stephen's understanding of Paul.
I'm sorry?
That's Father Stephen's understanding of Paul.
Okay, yeah. Because that's kind of where the camp I'm in or was raised in, and it's for me, it's a transformation of heart. Just transformation of heart. That the Torah, the law, didn't do. And am I drawing lines and poking? What do you think?
What I have told Father Stephen is I hope very much that he convinces other Christians of what he believes is the Orthodox faith. I believe that he is a Judaizer, and I wish him more luck in his Judaizing. But, so I'm not going to argue with Christians when they tell me that Paul says things like the law of Moses was somehow less than perfect, or does anything other than. So here, I'll tell you another story. Rabbi Skovak tells the story of he got a phone call from a cloistered monk. Do you know what a cloistered monk is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he got a phone call from a cloistered monk. He lives in Toronto, and the monastery is in Toronto.
Okay.
And the monk, Rabbi, I need to see you.
Okay.
And
this
Rabbi
is a real thing.
Yeah. This
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
Rabbi Skovak. He's like, why does a cloistered monk need to see me? But he was insistent. So Rabbi Skovak actually went to the monastery, to this monk's cell, to talk to him. Yeah. And the monk tells him that he wants to convert to Judaism. And the rabbi's like, what? Why? And he says, well, part of the discipline of our monastery is we read the entire book of Psalms every day.
Right.
Rabbi, do you know what the longest psalm in the book of Psalms is? And of course, Rabbi Skobach did know. It's Psalm 119, which is an 8-fold acrostic. So there are 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's an 8-fold acrostic, meaning that for every letter of the alphabet, so each verse starts with one letter of the alphabet, right? And there's
Okay.
8 verses, each starting with one of the letters of the alphabet. So 8 times 22, there's 176 verses, right?
Okay.
That's why it's so long. And he says, Rabbi, the entire psalm is all about how great God's word law is, and God's word, and how keeping it renews the soul, and does all these wonderful things. And every time I read it, I was like, then why aren't I keeping it? If it's so great, like,
Yeah.
why aren't I keeping it? Which convicted him of that he needs to become an Orthodox Jew, and he called Rabbi Skobach. And I don't know if the guy actually converted or not, but Rabbi Skobach has told this story many times, and he's like, the monastery is right down the street from him, right? And like, look, I don't see how you read Psalm 176. 119. Like,
Yeah.
in 176 verses, it couldn't have once said, "You can't keep the law. Wait for the Messiah to come
Yeah. Okay.
and free
Okay.
you from the curse of the law." Like,
Right.
even given you a hint. Like,
Right.
it's an 8-fold acrostic, and it's all about the greatness of the law.
Right. You know what's, this is interesting. Because I'm not fighting you. You know what I mean? You know that. But
You
I
cut
kind
out
of,
finding what?
because, oh no, because, so this is interesting. I like it. I'm not bothered by it. For me, it always goes back to transformation of heart through love.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the encounter, I knew the law, and I absolutely am like, dude, I'm a burnout. I ain't going to be able to do that. I'm a mixed bag of nuts. Even on my best day. And then, so I'm going to sound like Paul. So this is my spiel. It is after the encounter I have with Jesus, I get a transformed heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then I change, and not by my own power. There's a grace. So I can see. So I'm not planting a flag on a hill. I'm just sharing what happened. So how does that fit in to the framework of all this?
So we're playing all of Jacob's greatest hits. I'll tell you one of my favorite stories.
Okay, this is interesting.
So this is it's an allegory, but it's one of my favorite stories. A man hears there's a fruit in a distant land that tastes better than anything else he's ever eaten in his life. and he decides that he's going to go look for this fruit. And he starts searching for it. And he goes, visits wise men in different cities and across oceans, across rivers, and across mountains and across deserts. And he travels for years and years asking about this fruit, where the fruit is. And finally he arrives at the top of a mountain, and he finds the tree, and there's a fruit there.
Yeah.
And he takes the fruit from the tree and he bites into it. And it tastes amazing. And he thinks to himself, all those years that I spent looking for this tree were worth it to finally come and taste this fruit.
Yeah.
And as he's thinking that, a little child walks up to the tree, grabs a fruit, and starts eating it.
Yeah.
And the man turns to him and he's like, it took me all these years to find this tree. How did you get here? And the child says, I was born here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's two questions I always ask with this allegory.
Mm-hmm.
First question is, did the fruit taste as sweet to the young child as it did to the old man?
No.
And the second question is, okay, this kid was born next to that tree.
Yeah.
What's he going to spend his life in search of?
Is he satisfied?
So there's a verse in the Bible that says, "V'shavta ad Hashem Elokecha." Very literally, it translates to, "And you shall return to the Lord your God." And there's a cute Hasidic understanding of it, which says "ad ve'ad bechlal," meaning you shall return all the way to the Lord your God, right?
Mm-hmm.
But God is infinite, right?
Yeah.
And we are each as far away from God as we are. There's a distance from God, right? And to some extent, you have to understand that if I am a foot away, or 100 feet away, or 1,000 feet away, or a million feet away,
Yeah.
those are all numbers. But when it's when we're talking about an infinite distance, right?
Yeah.
You could have $1 billion in the bank. It's not the same thing as a credit card that you don't have to pay off.
Okay.
That's infinite, right? That's endless, right? And so we, as finite human beings, various ones of us, some of us, I believe, and frankly, I think this is what Paul is saying in Romans, right? I believe that as a Jew, I was born next to the tree.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. I'm getting you.
And some people were born further away from the tree.
Like Cleveland. Gotcha.
But
Sorry.
ultimately, the question becomes, okay, you're next to the tree. Are you eating the fruit, or are you cooking it into a jam and making it into a, preserve? And what are you doing with the fruit you're next to, right?
Okay.
Not
Because I know
the analogy. Yeah.
No, because when I quickly said, when I kind of slammed the kid right off the bat, I remember it was like it reminded me of when Jesus said one was forgiven 50 and one was forgiven like 5 million, the talents or the debt.
Yes.
And which one loves more. So I was kind of riffing off that, but I don't want to assume someone who was born by it wouldn't appreciate it as much as I just felt like, okay, that was wrong. But
No,
anyhow, with that,
I mean, it's that generally the way of the world is. And look,
yeah,
so Andrew Clavin, have you heard his story of how he came to Jesus?
no,
You can go listen to it. It's on YouTube. Andrew Clavin's testimony.
okay,
But he talks about how when he had his bar mitzvah,
yeah,
he got all these presents, and he got basically this briefcase filled with gold and jewels and all of this,
yeah,
and he felt like he didn't earn it.
yeah,
And so in the middle of the night, he went and he buried it in the trash,
okay,
right?
yeah,
Because it made him feel so bad about himself,
okay,
right? And when he told that story, I was like, yeah, that's how I think of Jews who convert to Christianity. Like,
yeah,
I understand if the gold makes you feel bad and isn't working for you and whatever. I think
Mhm.
God will figure a way. Like, vast majority of us do not have the ability to resist God, right? You got to
right,
really hard to resist
yeah,
God,
yeah,
and
gotcha.
he'll defeat the vast majority of us, right?
Right.
The question is, how long does it take for you to actually do the right thing or not, right?
Oh, that's
And I mean, to me, like when you look at Andrew Clavin, would you tell him to throw away that briefcase filled with gold? I still wonder. He wonders where that briefcase ended up. He said he wonders if some bum like just ended up finding that gold
right.
might be in a landfill somewhere.
Yeah,
Still, right? And it's like, would you tell him to throw it away?
gotcha. I'm getting you. It's
I've got a
no,
question.
What's your question?
It's a follow-up question from Dostoevsky and the evil inclination and all that.
I gotta go to bed, guys. This has been fun.
Okay.
Good night.
Good
God
talking,
bless.
Ron.
Thank you for joining.
Always good seeing you. All right. So we were talking spiritual warfare. Where's
Yeah.
the spiritual warfare in Judaism? Is there any spiritual
Of course
warfare?
there is.
Okay. Describe it to me. If there's no demons, where's the warfare?
Who said there's no demons?
Okay. All right.
I
All right.
we don't
Okay.
believe demons have free will. We believe there are demons. Most of us. The spiritual warfare is the difficulty in living a truly faithful life and fighting your evil inclination on a daily basis.
Interesting. You don't think demons have free will?
No, that's a major difference between Christian and Jewish theology.
Were they just made inherently evil by God?
They were made to do certain things by God. we also don't really believe that they will be punished. Like, we only believe in punishment to the degree that someone decides to be the instrument of evil.
Okay, that reminds me of a quote by C.S. Lewis that's like, the gates of hell are locked from the inside. Okay.
Yeah. Although I believe that that's actually not C.S. Lewis, it's the other guy, G.K. Chesterton. And it's not an actual quote. I went searching for it because I like it so much.
Yeah.
Apparently he wrote a short story in which the main character finds himself in hell, and he decides to take he encounters there's a bus to heaven, and he's like, well, what's the fare? And they're like, it's free. He's like, okay, what's stopping me from getting on? And they're like, nothing. So he gets on the bus to heaven, and they get to the gates, and the bus driver says, go open the gates. And he goes and he sees that the gate is locked on the inside. And that's the short story, and people quote that as the gates of hell are locked from the inside. But Chesterton never actually said those words. It's a synopsis of the short story.
I looked it up. Everyone seems to say it's from C.S. Lewis.
Well, maybe C.S. Lewis wrote the short story and I got it wrong.
I mean, yeah, it's like he didn't say those specific words, but he said that.
So C.S. Lewis wrote the short story?
Yeah, apparently it's called Problem of Pain.
Okay, so I had the author wrong. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so sort of going off that, like, what's the Jewish view of the eschatology?
What do you mean? We believe that God we believe that God will eventually redeem the world. How that will happen, the specifics are here. I will read you from Maimonides chapter.
I recently got a book by him. Hopefully, you were saying that some people think everything he said was just bad. I hope that's.
I wouldn't say it was just bad, but yeah. Guide to the Perplexed. It's a difficult book, and I can't say it's controversial, but it's not his most studied work. So the Mishnah Torah is his. I usually translate it as restatement of the law, or restatement of the Torah, and he ends it with 2 chapters talking about the coming of the Messiah. So chapter 12 of the Laws of Kings and Wars is one of the most famous chapters. This is the last chapter of his restatement of the law. And not everything he says do 100% of people agree with, but it is one common view that Maimonides gives, and many people describe in different ways, but here it is. Don't think that in the days of the Messiah anything will be changed. I would have translated that needs to be changed in the order of the world, or that there will be some innovation in the works of creation. Again, I think this is too emphatic of a translation. Rather, the world will behave according to its custom. And what is written in Isaiah, and the wolf will live with the lamb, and the tiger will lie down with the kid, Isaiah 11:6, is a metaphor and a riddle. The idea is is that Israel will dwell safely with the evil idol worshippers who are compared to a wolf and to a tiger. And as it is said, a desert wolf will slaughter them, and a tiger will keep watch over their cities, Jeremiah 5:6. And everybody will return to the religion of truth, and they will not steal and they will not destroy. Rather, they will eat the permitted things together with Israel, as it is said, and the lion, like the herd, will eat straw. And so too, all of things like this on the topic of the Messiah are metaphors. And in the days of the King Messiah, it will be known to all what the metaphor is about and what is hinted at them. The sages said that there's no difference between this world and the days of the Messiah except for subjugation to foreign kings. It seems from the simple meaning of the words of the prophets that in the beginning of the days of the Messiah, there will be a war between Gog and Magog, and that before the war between Gog and Magog, a prophet will rise to straighten Israel out and to prepare their hearts, as is written, behold, I am sending to you Eliyahu, and he is not come to make the pure impure or to make the impure pure, and not to disqualify people who have been considered kosher, and not to certify those of who have been disqualified, rather to bring peace to the world, as it says, he will return the hearts of the fathers to their children. And there are those among the sages who say that before the Messiah will come, Elijah will come, and all of these things and things like them, people won't really know how it will be until it happens, because these things are not explicit in the prophet's words. And the sages also don't have received a tradition about these things, just an interpretation of the verses. Therefore, they argue about these things. And in any case, there's no order to these things happening, and the details of them is not necessary to the religion. And a person should never study the tales or spend a long time on the Midrash told about these issues and things like them. And they should not be made to be essential, since they bring about neither awe nor love. So a very clear ruling is that since there's so much discussion about what exactly will happen, we only care about those things which actually affect our fear or awe and love of God. And the essentials of our religion are to believe that, yes, there will be a coming of the Messiah, and there will be, various things, including the resurrection of the dead. But the particulars, if the Bible wanted to be more clear about the particulars, it would be. It wasn't. And frankly, it doesn't matter. And this is one of the reasons why I'm constantly quoting Gamaliel in Acts 5, right? You want to focus on the things that are important, that the Bible says are important. Hey, Jason, you want to jump on? Or you're probably too busy, because you're always too busy. Yeah, I mean, the important things are to do as God has commanded us, and to have faith in God, and to love and fear God, and, love your neighbor, etc., etc., etc. It's not to spend your life worrying about the eschaton.
I agree. And what you were saying, what you were reading off of, sounded very much aligned with what the Orthodox Church believes. It's sort of like the Garden of Eden, pre-fall. That's what the world's gonna be made into in the resurrection and everything. But I just asked that because of the whole angels and demons thing. But y'all can go back to that if y'all want to talk about that more.
I don't know. I am not going to go much longer than another 40 minutes unless a random Father Stephen shows up, um, which I'm not expecting.
When's
But
the last time you've talked to him?
it's been a while. He hasn't been on for a long time, man. I email and he emails every once in a while, but yeah, I haven't talked to him offline in a while.
So what purpose did the demons serve?
To tempt us.
And is there any chance that they're restored to good or no?
I mean, we don't believe they are inherently. So in Judaism, there isn't that much of a difference between an angel and a demon.
Interesting. I think we Christians would believe that demons are fallen angels. Would you believe that or no?
We wouldn't call them fallen angels. We would compare them to the left and right hand, right? They are mirrors of each other.
But they serve two very different purposes.
Yes and no. So one of the things that Pharisaic Judaism has been famous for since the very beginning is we say just as we thank God for the good things that happen in our lives, we thank God for the bad things that happen in our lives, right? Oh, which reminds me, the source for that is when you hear news of somebody passing. Yosef's grandfather died, and may his soul have an ascent, an aliyah. But when he messaged me and Chazi about that, my response was BDE. The letters BDE is how Orthodox Jews often respond to such news because it's short for Baruch Dayan Emet. Blessed is the true judge, which is the blessing we say to thank God for the news of someone we care about dying. So, yeah, the Malach HaMavet, the angel of death, is an angel of death. And it's good is not evil and evil is not good. But God creates good and evil.
Interesting. Okay. He creates evil?
Yeah. Let me pull up Isaiah 47, is it? Isaiah 45, verse 7. Isaiah 45. We're doing ESV. I could go to the Hebrew, but Isaiah 45. Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus. Yeah, Christians for some reason don't translate this one, don't capitalize anointed. They do everywhere where they want to make it sound like it's Jesus. But
check the RSV.
RSV.
Actually, even better, NRSVUE, New Revised Standard Version.
UE, Updated Edition.
Updated edition, yeah.
Okay. Let's see what that says. Thus says the Lord to his anointed, okay, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have grasped, to subdue nations before him, and to strip kings of their robes, to open doors before him, and the gates shall not be closed. I will go before you and level the mountains. I will break in pieces the doors of bronze and cut through the bars of iron. I will give you the treasures of darkness and riches hidden in secret places, so that you may know that it is I, the Lord, the God of Israel, who call you by your name. For the sake of my servant Jacob and Israel my chosen, I call you by your name. I gave you a title, though you do not know me. I am the Lord, and there is no other. Besides me, there is no God. I arm you, though you do not know me, so that they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is no one beside me. I am the Lord, and there is no other. I form light and create darkness. I make weal and create woe. So this word, they translate it as woe here. In the Hebrew is ra, which is precisely the same word that's used in, it's here, I think it's feminine, and there it's masculine, but like it makes no difference despite what some Christians try to argue. That's used in Genesis, the the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This is actually one of the reasons I think Mathieu Pajot likes to translate it as the tree of the knowledge of good and bad, not good and evil. But whatever. It's Tov V'Ra. And here God says quite clearly, I form light and create darkness. I make weal and create woe. I, the Lord, do all these things. Besides God, there is no other. It is all from God, both good and bad. And there it is.
Yeah, I would have to look into that more. It sounds like a very literal interpretation of the scripture. It's interesting in the light and darkness one. It says like, I make light and create darkness. Almost like God makes the light, and because there is light.
The word create there is actually more of a... so Christians will often say, yeah, God created light, and it is the absence of light, which is evil and darkness, etc. But in the Hebrew, it's actually the other way around. The word used for here, let's pull up the Hebrew, because why not? So Tanakh, Isaiah. Did I miss Isaiah? I missed Isaiah. 45? Yeah. 7. Yotzer or uvorech choshech. So the word yotzer means to form, whereas the word boreh means to create, as in like from nothing. So yeah, Oseh shalom uvoreh ra, who makes peace and creates evil. Yeah, I think in the tree of good and evil, that's where it's feminine. Here it's masculine. Okay, let's go check. Genesis 3, is it? Yodei Tov V'Ra. No, it's the exact same word. Yep. Exact same. What can I tell you?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I have to look into that. Do you guys like view God as like all good, the source of good, source of love and everything?
God is the source of good and evil. God is good because good is in line with. So Jewish views of theodicy can be very strange to Christians. We sometimes get, some people would say that we're close to Calvinist, except we're not. We don't say that good is evil. Obviously, God is the good and the one who hatov v'hametiv, we say, the good, the one who is good and causes good, but for his reasons, as the book of Job makes clear, God God saw reason to create Satan, to bring evil into the world, and to make bad things happen to good people. And I think the book of Job is pretty clear in saying, you won't get it until you get it. Sorry.
Yeah, but even in the book of Job, it's not like God's actively doing evil, but he's more so allowing it to happen.
He's the one who says to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? Like,
he's
God's
not
the one who's saying to Satan, hey, go bother this guy. It was
But-
God's idea.
but he's more so allowing it to happen. He's not the actual.
It was his idea. He brings it up to Satan.
But he's still not the one like doing the evil.
Okay, so we believe that evil has a measure of distance from God, right? So famously, Nahum Ish Gamzu was known as Ish Gamzu because he would say, the man of Gamzu, probably Gamzu is a place, but also he was famous for saying Gamzu Latova. Also, this is for the good. And Rabbi Akiva similarly would say, Kol the Rahmana Avid Latav Avid. Everything that the merciful has done, he does for the good. So we believe that that which is evil is not good itself, but exists for the good. One metaphor people like to give, and it's one of my favorite metaphors, is that when you live in the light, you don't understand what it is like to be in darkness. But once you have experienced darkness and you see light, then you can appreciate the value of light, right? And I mean, we're talking Kabbalah. Part of the teaching of the Kabbalah is that there was a tzimtzum, there was a hiding of the light of God, and it's merely an illusion, right? Because obviously God is with us wherever we go, but there's God decided to hide the light so that in the future, right, like it says, no one can see God and live, right? And it says that God showed Moses his back, right? One of the explanations that rabbis give is that it is only in hindsight that we will be able to see that actually all of the things that appear evil to us were in fact for the good. God knew what he was doing and how he was setting things up, and we don't quite understand, and we cannot understand until the day when the knowledge of God will cover the land as the waters cover the seas.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to think about that more because at least from the Christian perspective, we view God as like only good. And so he's like incapable of creating evil. I guess like our understanding of
So
that,
where did evil come from?
our understanding of that is like a distortion of good.
Okay, who created the possibility of a distortion of good?
God, but he's not the one that actively caused the bad.
I
Like,
mean, okay, we can talk of permissive will versus active will. And yes, I do believe that evil is part of God's permissive will. The way the Kabbalists sometimes describe this is that God gives to evil the same way as someone throws something over his shoulder to because he doesn't want to look at something that's ugly or bad that he dislikes. But yeah, ultimately, all things come. God created all things. There is no creator. There is nothing that has been created that was not created by God.
yeah, I'm with you on that.
Sometimes I say, I describe this as Satan being the fourth member of the Trinity, in that Christians have this idea of like this Manichaean idea of like goodness comes from God and evil comes from Satan, and it's like Satan is a is a creature of God.
Yeah. No, I listened to this dude called Esoterica on YouTube, if you've heard of him.
Yes.
Sounds like you're not a big fan of him.
Not a big fan at all. He's a secular Jew who likes to wear a long beard and talk about Kabbalistic things, uh, even though he apparently doesn't really believe in God.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I just heard him once say that like the character of Satan was created in order to explain evil, because apparently the belief, I guess even of the Jews back then, was that God is only good, and so they needed another person in order to explain the evil that happens.
The guy behind Esoterica puts on a good show. He brings up a lot of stuff. For some reason, Zevi from Seekers of Unity is friends with him. Not one of my favorite. The fact that Zevi is so good friends with Esoterica is one of the reasons I'm not a huge promoter of Zevi, Slavin, and Seekers of Unity.
Okay. Gotcha. And it's interesting that you mentioned not being able to talk to God like face to face. What's the Jewish interpretation of when Moses does talk face to face with God?
So the Bible speaks in all kinds of metaphors when it mentions the hand of God, the foot of God, right? The fact is that none of these things are in any way literal, and so it's not weird that in certain places it says no image, and then in Isaiah, for example, or Daniel, there are these images. It's because we as human beings can only understand things. So we believe in hypostases of God, God represented in the world. We don't believe that any representation of God in the world can manifest the essence and reality of God, because God is being. God is beyond all of these things, and ultimately, we believe in divine simplicity. But yeah, this gets into a lot of stuff, and frankly, it's getting kind of late.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let you go. Thanks for letting me talk with you once again.
My pleasure. Okay, let me see if there's anything in the comments I need to. Seems like people are having fun. Yeah. Okay, people. Where's my video? Oh, have you seen this?
I'm not sure who Fatarecci is. I can't tell.
New branding. And he said my name correctly, which is the really shocking part. But yeah. I'm going to use host's prerogative to put the Reverend Parcells to bed because he does need to get up in the morning.
Sorry, Reverend. Thank you.
But before he goes, I have a question. Let's say, God forbid, that I were to burn somebody at the stake for not being a Trinitarian. And I did not repent of that. Is that a salvation issue?
Sometimes Jacob takes that devil's advocate thing too
Isn't there
far.
a proverb that says something like, "Don't answer a fool according to his folly"?
But there's a proverb that says, "Answer a fool according to his folly."
There is. Exactly right. And I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine, which of those was applicable in this situation as I go. So, but anyhow, good.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good to
Thank
chat
you.
with you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
The